Okay, this is scene five. It's week five, scene five breakdown of the short film or animation, I guess you would call it, the drive-in that I had created for my local film society, the Bozeman Film Society. I'm Jake, and yeah, I've made these last couple of weeks just kind of breaking down how I made this animation in Procreate and Procreate Dreams completely. So I'll start out and just play this scene and then kind of go into the backgrounds and landscapes and characters and then the animation side of things. So yeah, play this first. Okay, cool. So yeah, that was the fifth scene. That was the starring sponsors. So it would play the sponsors for the film society after that. But the premise of this scene was to introduce this celebrity character who, um, because the whole animation was to be based off kind of um, our town, Bozeman. So we've had the cowboy and the skier and the hippie. This is the celebrity, and it's kind of funny because you think Montana and celebrities, it's not really a mix that you usually have. Um, but actually, Bozeman has a lot of. We live next to Big Sky, which is a huge hub for all types of rich people and celebrities of all sorts. So we often see them in Bozeman, and it's starting to be called Bose Angeles. So that was kind of just a funny jab at that. That was what her character is supposed to be, is this movie star here. So, but yeah, all the buildings. Let's go ahead and jump into the landscapes here. All of these buildings, obviously not these guys here in the back, but this is actually local. This is downtown Bozeman. And this is actually the Ellen Theater where the movie got played. This animation got played, and yeah. So play the time lapse here. So you see, it started out with that street, and this is the first scene that I added these drawings. I don't know why I ended up putting them in there. I just felt like it was so blank, and I ended up keeping them, and the clients liked them, so that's what we ended up going with. But yeah, and then for the characters, I just kind of threw in a bunch of random, um, I don't know, very loose shape of people, and then also stock images of these people to create this paparazzi, if you will, um, which you will see in this scene here, um, or this shot, I should say. So, so this shot is just a paparazzi shot with some added, because I created those drawings of the cars, or the, I don't know if you call them drawings. They're very childlike. But I had to keep with that theme. So I added some of them here, and then in the animation, I added a bunch of random flashing lights to get that camera feel. And then moved them all on their own axes. So I don't know. It's kind of a fun one, and I think it turned out all right. It's fun. It's obviously not perfect, but um, you know, and yeah. So all of these um, are on their own separate layers, so that when I brought them into Procreate Dreams, they could be animated on their own separate layers and moving around and shaking and whatnot. But I don't know, compared to a lot of the other shots where there's these kind of complex movements of distorting and whatnot, this one's pretty simple, pretty flat. And then this is the last kind of area here. where you can see the van and the cow come running through. But yeah, same deal. These are all buildings that are found in downtown Bozeman. You got the Baxter sign at the top, and so kind of fun. Kept it really local for this guy. Um, as for the character, this is our movie star. I think this might be my favorite character in the whole story. It's just it turned out so fun, and you can see I was playing with some different shapes and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. It was a fun character to make for sure, and keeping that poofy hair along with everything else. But it was built just very similar to all the rest of them, where each one of these pieces are grouped together, but you can animate them completely. Um, so, like if I wanted to move the eyes around in Procreate James and shift it or do whatever, or the hand, I could do that separately, and they're not all grouped together because once you flatten those images, you can't unflatten them, which is kind of simple. I don't know why I'm saying that, but it didn't make sense to me at first, and then yeah. But anyways, and then like all the other characters, they've got two other profiles. So we have the side profile of when she is riding on the cow. Um, play this. It's the same. And then I just think I just brought that face over and stole this image of somebody riding a horse. Made the dress swoopy. And yeah. And then here is the back view. The back view is only used in scene 6 when that's what you can see, but uh, we'll go over that in scene 6, I guess. But just keeping the hair for the whole thing. It's kind of the big signifying trait of this character, and so it was pretty easy to copy over into everything else. So yeah, as for the scene breakdowns, okay, so there's a scene of this exact background with both the cowboy and the van. So I'll just break down the cowboy. Um, but as you can see, there's just a large background. And once it gets to here, I just added another one. So it's just a looping background. And then blurred because our focus is set on the cowboy. So you can't really tell. At least I don't think you can, that we're looping because you're really just focused on the cowboy. Um, you can see that his pants break away from his jacket. That could have probably been cleaned up a little bit. I thought it was kind of comical because it's we're going for that um, collage style, and that's it just adds to that. So I kept it in. And if you watch the cow's limbs here, nothing special. Um, but yeah, they just stay in one place, and the cow's legs kind of just go like this. He rocks back and forth, and that's about it for that one. Um, here's kind of a still shot of showing them coming in. These guys were just animated, or at least the van was, um, just from getting from point X, from point A to point B across the screen. Same with the cowboy, and then these marks here are just using that performance tool and rotating it. I'm not going to go too deep into that. If you want to learn more about that, you can watch some of the other videos, if anybody even watches this. But yeah, um, and then I just have one image in the foreground blurred out, just to add a little bit of depth in the camera shot. Not a ton, but enough to sell. Yeah, Here's a paparazzi shot, and like I said, it's just this one large landscape with each character moving on its own, like rotating on its own axis, and then added in these flashes here with a, I believe there's a drawing tool in luminance. Yeah, this flare, and I just kind of disperse those on a track super randomly. So let me turn this off and show you that. Maybe we add a black background and fill the duration here so you can see that. So you can see there's 2 on this one, 3. They're just dispersed super randomly, and then grouped together and duplicated along the same. So yeah, and then you throw that on top of here, and you get this kind of fun paparazzi effect. And then I kept that that effect and just threw it on top of this shot here, where it kind of flips the camera around and we see the celebrity's face, and just moved her assets around a little bit. Some motion, kind of like she's blinded, can't see, and that's when we see the cowboy ride through in this shot here. So you flip the camera back around, you can see a couple of the paparazzi in the bottom. That's just that same image came down, and then I think I used. Let's look. I believe I used like some type of brush because, yeah, this layer, it's the same as the one before. I just took an eraser and erased everything from the top so it's not a square. I had to get rid of that background, and then blurred it like always, because it's not the main focus of the shot. And then the lady's hair is so much closer because that's kind of how the camera would act. So you get this shot of the van riding past, and then the cowboy coming back into frame because she sees him and he sees her, and that's when they make that eye contact that we saw here, right here. So he comes back in, he sees her, she sees him, and then they take off, and that's just kind of the joke that we get there. But you can see my camera roll. I'm a window washer, so if that makes you feel good about yourself, then good. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we can break down the shot of them riding off. So we've got this. This shot took me a long time to figure out because I wanted it to look like the camera's following them, and then I had to figure out some way to transition into having some way of saying like presenting sponsors. And originally I was going to have it a steady shot with these 2 riding past the shot, and then I was going to zoom into a billboard of the movie theater or whatever. But I had already zoomed into a billboard previously, so I had to figure out a different way. And so that's when I came up with this idea of following them, and then as a car passes, having the camera switch. And it took me forever to figure this out because you have to kind of nail it perfectly so that right when you have that moment of them passing each other, you got to switch the angle. Which, as you can see, I didn't do the greatest job of because we still get a bit of the tail in that shot as it zooms in. But overall, I think it worked pretty well. So he hits and they pass, and then we zoom into that guy's sign while the other one is taking the photos out of the picture because And again, he's the paparazzi, and yeah. So I guess he would probably be facing the other way taking the pictures, but let's not even think about that. But for for her dress, you can kind of see. I actually don't know how this happened, but the lines of the dress stay in the same spot, and I believe that's because I've used those lines, those shadows, as an overlay, and so the overlay stays, but the dress moves. Um, that's not. I don't know. It created kind of a fun thing, but it is weird. And then we got his hay stick, which animates just animates from an anchor point from in his mouth. I can show you that. Where's our cowboy? Here he is. So you can see when I click on that, you'll see the anchor points in his mouth, and then you just use that perform tool and grab a corner. Oh, I'm making it bigger, but you can shake it around as much as you want, and then I can just shake him around as well. And so just following the beat of the cow's footsteps there. So, which the cow's animated the same way, just putting an anchor point on, whether it be his tail, his head, and just rotating it as that background moves. Because these guys are staying in one spot, right, in the camera, and the only thing that's moving is the background itself. And until the car comes into frame, and then they will move out, and that background will move back again, and slowly we'll zoom in to the side. But yeah, overall, I think that's kind of all with this guy. It was definitely a fun one to make just because I got to use like local assets of buildings and whatnot. Obviously, the cars are older and um, whatever, and there's a couple added things, but I don't know. Overall, I had a lot of fun making this scene. So yeah, but anyways, I hope you learned something. And if you have any questions, yeah, feel free to reach out because it's not like my mailbox is imploding. So yeah, thanks. Have a great weekend.